Good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Livingstone. I'm head of Year 7 at Hutton, and I'm just going to take the opportunity to go through a little bit about the application process and also just sort of fill you in on the process that happens, the transition from primary school to secondary school, and how we at Hutton sort of help support your son in doing that. So first of all, the applications bit, you need to apply online using the Lancashire County Council form by the 31st of October. If you attend church or mosque or have other special circumstances, then you'll need to fill in the supplementary form and return this to the Hutton School office by the 31st of October. And I would make sure that you've got a receipt as proof of doing that. You then need to log on to the LCC website on the 1st of March to find out which of your preferences you've been given. In terms of the criteria, last year students were admitted from all 5 criteria, and they are all listed in the school prospectus. If you do want any sort of further information, you can sort of view the school website, www.huttongrammar.org, or you could contact the head teacher's PA on 613112. Alternatively, if you've got any questions either about the admissions criteria or just anything in general, then the email you could use is admissions2021@huttongrammar.org. And depending on the nature of your question, might depend which member of staff might respond to that. Okay, so the bit of the job that I sort of do really and really enjoy doing, I've been at Hutton for sort of 20 years now. I sort of arrived in 2001, having done a couple of years in the sixth form actually as a student, a few years before that. But I really enjoy working at Hutton. I think it's a fantastic place to work, and part of the reason why I enjoy it is because typically what we do is we get students who are really keen and enthusiastic and want to learn and sort of respond to the challenges that we sort of set out in front of them. So I think it's a great place for students to come and develop. So the cycle that happens really, you make your preference, you find out 1st of March. Then typically primary schools want to just to leave the students alone for a bit really until they've got these things called SATs out of the way. And then it tends to be that about May time, I'll get to go in and speak to the students, and hopefully we get to do that face to face. We managed with Zoom meetings last year, which was okay, and we managed, so that's fine, but hopefully face to face this year. And get time to speak to the Year 6 teacher. They tend to pass on quite a bit of information, which I share with all my colleagues back here at Hutton. So that's the first link, really, with me going into the primary schools. We do have somewhere in the region of 40 to 45 different schools that feed into Hutton, so it's quite a sort of wide catchment area. And what I tend to do is put on an additional evening for those students who are maybe just either the only one coming from the primary school, or maybe there's just 2 of them, and they maybe have those, added anxieties of thinking, I'm not going to know anybody. And so we set up an evening, and there's usually about 25 to 30 students that can come along to that one, and it means that they get to meet somebody else in their form at an early stage, and maybe the parents have 1 or 2 extra questions which we can just reassure them on. So we do that one. Then June time, we have what's called a taster day. So everybody, the 149 that are going to start Hutton in the following September, they all come into school. They get to meet their form tutor. So at Hutton we have 5 form groups. There's Fleetwood, Hines, Rawsthorne, Walton and Pearson. And they'll get to meet their form tutor. And that's a really important link, for sorting anything out really. The main contact will be the form tutor and myself. So that's in June. It's the taster day, like through the day for the students. And then the evening on that same day is for the parents. Okay, so having the students come into school and sampled various lessons and started to familiarise themselves with the school site, the parents in the evening then get to meet their son's form tutor and start to put sort of a name to a face and meet other people as well, other senior colleagues. It might be that you meet Mr. Bradshaw, the head teacher in person, and other members of our senior leadership team. Additional visits, yes, we do them. We don't have, there isn't a one-size-fits-all. We do whatever's required. Myself and Mrs. Porritt were allowed to do one or two sort of additional meetings. Even this year, we were allowed to do it. Some of them were by Zoom. Some of them, late on, even towards the end of July, we were allowed to have face-to-face. So we did that. So we tend to do those. So it might be that we need to sort of have an additional meeting where we go into the primary school. Yourself, the parents, are probably involved in that process too. As long as we've got all the information and you're happy and satisfied that that's all been passed on to us and we know what we need to do to help your son, that's what we're aiming for. Okay. Oh, wrong way. Settling in. So the first few weeks, getting to know your way around. So big thing, students sort of do tend to worry about that, finding their way around school. But we have lots of sort of activities in those first few days of just students finding the way, maybe doing sort of treasure trails around school. Actually one thing at the moment with all these one-way systems, it's probably made it a bit easier for the incoming year sevens to sort of find the way and not sort of get, met with, older students, years 10 and 11, coming in the opposite direction. So one or two good things might have come out of it. Team building, getting to know the other students in your form group, okay, so that you can branch away from, those that you've just sort of stuck with in primary school, meeting one or two new friends. We do other things as well, so half-day study skill workshops. So early on, we try and organise something so that, when your science teacher says, right, go away and revise this topic, well, the student's going to go, well, how do I revise? Well, that's part of the workshop. It's how do you revise? How do you make notes on things? Maybe creating a mind map. Just the skills that you maybe need for note taking in history. If you're told to make notes on something, well, how do you do it without writing the whole paragraph out? Picking out those sort of keywords. So those skills we look at. We also do a half day that's called Life in a Church School. And look at specifically as to what's unique to Hutton, whether it's the aspects of the collective worship that might happen in the form time, the use of the chapel within the school, and more pointedly, we've got this thing called this Huttonian Award that I'll talk about a bit more on the next slide, but that's what we're trying to develop students into good Huttonians, and that's just good all-round people, basically, that work hard and do the best. Reduced homework, so the main focus for September, I would say, is just settling in, getting you to know your way around school, packing your bags with all the right books that you're going to need, just getting yourself organised, really. And we don't go rushing into the homework. It's English and maths initially in September, and then we'll sort of feed in the other subjects after that. Settling in even in September, well, again, it's parents' opportunity to touch base really with your son's form tutor and just see how things are going. We can maybe tell you things, you can mention things to us. There might not be anything, so it's just a case of just checking, telling you a bit about the new systems that we've got in school, whether it's Synergy and how would you check your son's homework, and a bit about his email, maybe just things to do with communication. But that's there anyway in September. So this Huttonian Award, well, if any of you have been in scouting or guiding, it's along those lines. So we have accomplishment, humility and service. So accomplishment is basically just working hard in your different subjects. At secondary school, you get what's called assessments and some reports. And a parents' evening, but assessments and reports just tell us how we're going. So it might be good scores in what's called attitude to learning. So 1s and 2s will be a good attitude towards your studies. maybe attending the various extracurricular clubs and just showing good participation. Humility, well, we ask students to raise money for charity, but in the past, lots have raised, perhaps more than £20, but that's just a figure to sort of a ballpark figure to get the students going. We've had bake sales to different students doing, as part of a walk with the family, walking up various sort of peaks in the Lake District as part of their challenge, or biking around the Guild Wheel, or whatever it is students choose to do. That's great. And then obviously putting those Christian values into action. The service part, completing 5 hours of service. Well, normally we'd have had students volunteering to help out on open evening as guides and all the rest of it, so that might have been part of it. This year, students might have had to do service, might have been reading for a younger brother or sister during lockdown. Who knows what it was? Okay, so we've had to be a bit flexible in the last 12 months. Inter-house events, well, big part of school life is inter-house sport and inter-house competitions. So it might not be sport you're particularly into, it might be inter-house French spelling bee if you fancy that. And then also reading three books as well. I know that's easy for some of you, but we've got a good library in school, and it's just encouraging students to make good use of that facility as well. A little bit about the lunchtime clubs and activities. Again, what tends to happen, this is just an example for autumn term. We've got French homework club, creative writing club, choir, art club, which I think includes photography now, maths club, rock school, Christian union. Oh, the list is endless. I put on some of the sort of sporting clubs there, the rugby and the badminton and the swimming squads, and clearly that changes in the summer term and swaps over onto sort of cricket and athletics. Or a popular one there is Code Club as well. So there's lots going on, and we just encourage students to get involved and join in. Okay. So you might have other questions that you perhaps want to ask, and you can sort of drop me that sort of email if you want to admissions2021@huttongrammar.org. Other than that, I hope I've given you a bit of a flavour as to perhaps what goes on at Hutton. And I suspect one of the key things is the parent myself, with daughters going into year 8 will be next year, and going into year 6 next year. I want things to work for them, and often sort of reflect that, if they have a problem, I'd want their teacher to sort it. And well, that's what I'm here to do at Hutton. So you can rest assured, myself and my colleagues will be doing everything to help your son settle in and help them progress, help them enjoy, all these new subjects they're going to come across, and grow up into young men. Okay, thank you.